This week's Piltch Point with Avram Piltch is proudly powered by PureVPN. The best way to protect your privacy online is with PureVPN. You can hide your online activities, say goodbye to regional restrictions, and improve your streaming quality. Plus, it's available for almost all of your devices, and you can get a special price and a 31-day money-back guarantee, all by going to piltchpoint.live/PureVPN. All right, Avram. It's been a couple of weeks. What have you got for us tonight?
So, I have a little show and tell.
Yay!
A laptop that I just reviewed. This here is, for those who are viewing. I'll describe for you. This is a Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Carbon, the latest model, Gen 8. They call it Gen 8 because it's the 8th gen of X1 Carbon. It's not the 8th. It's not using an 8th generation processor. The processor is an Intel 10th generation Comet Lake processor inside. This is a really, though these are built for business, they're really, really excellent for anyone who likes to be productive. That is, if you if you're a student and you gotta, do research papers, if you're someone who, does any programming, anything like that, this is a great machine for a few reasons. One, it's got an absolutely fantastic keyboard. Lenovo's are known to have, ThinkPads, I should say, not all Lenovo's, are known to have excellent keyboards. This one follows suit. Really, really good tactile feedback on this. And so, you could type well, you could type faster, more accurately. The human part of the computer will be faster. Similarly, if you can carry something around more easily or balance on your lap better, that's definitely good for productivity. Or even if in these days you're not going anywhere, but you're going to your couch or you're lying in your bed, this is a really, really light, thin laptop. It is 0.6 inches thick, and it weighs 2.41 pounds. That is less by a lot than the in terms of weight than the Dell XPS 13, which a lot of people consider, and is also an excellent laptop. Consider sort of a gold standard for lightweight clamshell laptops. So other things to note about this ThinkPad X1 Carbon Gen 8. First of all, I'm showing you the model. I'm showing right now a model that has a 4K HDR display. It's hard to come through on the video here how good the color looks, but suffice it to say that it looks better than real life. So if you could, say, put a camera on the back of the lid, which they don't, but I wish they would, then I would sort of walk around life like this all day, because everything and everyone looks much more colorful on the HDR screen than they do in real life. Now, I don't know if you want to configure it with the HDR screen. That's one option, because you will get less battery life. So with the 4K HDR screen, you get, on our test, which is continuous surfing over Wi-Fi, 7.5 hours, which is not terrible. For the 1080p screen, you get 10.5 hours. So, a significant bump from having a screen that is lower resolution, consumes less power, but is also actually really quite bright. So this, both of the screens are really excellently bright. The 1080 screen actually is better if there's sunlight coming through the window because it's matte. This you can probably see, if you're watching, you can see there's some reflections on the screen because it's glossy. Glossy looks really nice on any display, but it also shows reflections and makes viewing angles worse. That's always the trade-off, whether you're buying a monitor or you're buying a laptop with a screen in it. Glossy makes colors pop more, but glossy also shows reflections more.
Mm-hmm.
So performance on this is good. It's not a gaming machine. It only has integrated Intel HD graphics, but it has up to 1 TB NVMe SSD that's pretty quick. It has up to a Core i7 Intel Comet Lake CPU, which the top model for this has 4 cores and 8 threads. And it has one thing that's nice is it has a whole bunch of ports. So even though this is super thin, it has 2 USB Type A ports on it and 2 Thunderbolt / Type C ports on it, and full size HDMI out, so you can go out to a monitor or a TV without a dongle or docking station. Uh, it even has an old style headphone jack, which most phones don't have these days. Um, but it starts at $1,330 at Lenovo.com to get a model that has a Core i5 processor and 8 gigs of RAM and the 1080 screen. I would certainly recommend if you were to buy it, that you get a model with 16 gigabytes of RAM, because you cannot upgrade the RAM. It's soldered onto the motherboard, so that's and I really think in this day and age, especially buying a computer that's going to last you a few years, 8 gigabytes of RAM is not enough. You should have 16. You can upgrade the SSD, however, so you could save yourself quite a bit of money by configuring it with a 256 gig SSD, and then spend $125 and buy yourself an aftermarket SSD and put it in, and you could save some money that way if you're comfortable doing that. So we have a full review of this on tomshardware.com, where we gave it an Editor's Choice Award. I do think that even though this is marketed as a business notebook, it is a great notebook for students, for anyone who wants to just get work done, get things done. It's not, while you could certainly watch movies on it, the audio is actually pretty good. I wouldn't consider that. It's certainly not a gaming notebook. And it's not a workstation. I mean, it's powerful enough to do most things, but it's not. You can do video editing on it, sure. You can do Photoshop on it, sure. But if you're a professional 3D animator or something, then you'll want a workstation, which they have a version actually called the X1 Extreme that is kind of a workstation. But this is, I think, a really great choice for a lot of folks. The ThinkPad X1 Carbon.
So the thing that I noticed while you were showing that off is how comfortable you were just like flipping it around in your hands, which means that the design and the weight must be really great, because at no point did you feel weird.
No. So that's a good point. The fit and finish of it, in terms of and this is something I've actually heard Lenovo talk about. This sort of tells you the difference between like a good, when we talk about build quality on a laptop, it's kind of intangible, right? You're like, oh, what's good build quality? Is anything of good? Here, I'm gripping it. If you see, I'm gripping it on one corner with one hand, and I'm not, it doesn't feel like it's creaking, and the body of it's not stressing under my grip, right? Whereas a lot of laptops, I'd feel like, hey, if I'm holding it by one corner and I'm not supporting the other corner with my hand, maybe I start to hear some plastic popping. This is made out of magnesium and carbon fiber and aluminum, so it's made out of really good quality materials. It's also mil spec tested, which means it's supposed to survive some amount of dings and drops and things like that. So yeah, that's another thing. Like you certainly there are other Ultrabooks out there in this price range, or even perhaps a little bit cheaper, But when you're getting something, when you get a business notebook like this, it is made to last, and it feels really really solid. It doesn't feel, it's light, but it doesn't feel like feel flimsy
Mm-hmm.
in any way. So that's a very good point, and a good reason to invest in this. It's one of those intangibles
Mm-hmm.
that's really nice that you get with a high quality business notebook like a ThinkPad. The other thing, which personally I love, and I know not everybody agrees with me, but I'm gonna, I will stand this every day, which is it has a track pointing stick, so that you can, in addition to the touchpad, so that you can navigate around the desktop uh, using the little red nub. And for me, the little red nub is far superior to the touchpad, because it's more precise. There's not as much like slippage or jumpiness, even though the touchpad on this one is really good. And if you're a touch typist, and
Mm-hmm.
really you ought to be, right? Um, you can, if you have your hands on the home row, then you can move the mouse pointer around without doing this all the time and moving your
Yeah,
hands.
because your
And
fingers are
this
already
becomes
there.
repetitive on your right, and this becomes repetitive on your shoulder, right? So it's like, oh, I'm moving, right? So I feel like I work much more efficiently having the track point there. I find it much more accurate than a touchpad, and I miss it when I'm using a notebook that doesn't have one.
And you are definitely the captain that's going to go down with that ship if it ever goes down. You,
Yes, I am. Yes, and I know that. Full disclaimer: I know a lot of people don't like the pointing sticks. They think that they're old fashioned, um, but you know, I wish that younger people who are getting in, would be introduced to them,
mm-hmm.
um, and really shown that, hey, there's some great advantages to this, because it's still a superior technology. It's just that a lot of people have kind of been trained that a touchpad is how we do it today.
Right.
So, and Lenovo, for their part, by the way, real quick, Lenovo's not the only one to use pointing sticks. There are still Dell Latitude laptops that come with them, although the Dell pointing stick is not as good. Um, and and I don't know if the most recent models have them, but there have been HP Elite books, and Toshiba. Wait, they changed their name. They're not Toshiba anymore.
Uh-huh.
The company formerly known as Toshiba, Tecras, that that had them. So this is a technology that a lot of people consider old, and old, but just like those folks who swear by, like, you can drive better, they can drive better with a stick shift. I'm I'm one who swears by my pointing stick.
Well, you mentioned Toshiba, so I went to the Dynabook, which is their new name. I went to the Dynabook website, and one of the ones on the homepage has a pointing stick.
Yeah, theirs is pretty decent. Still not as good, but it's a little blue one.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely is better than the ones on Dell and HP, which are concave, whereas the Toshiba and Lenovo ones are convex. So yes, I know the shape of all my rubber domes. It's,
That
it's a
might
small area of expertise, but I but I have it.
that might be my new
Um,
favorite sentence from you, Avram.
yes.
I know the shape of all my rubber domes. That is a
Okay.
bonkers sentence. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, all of the ones on their homepage have it now. So Toshiba might be leaning into it a little harder than or Dynabook may be leaning into it a little harder than they used to. But
Yep.
Lenovo is the company that like when people think of a laptop with the track,
Yes.
it's Lenovo. That
Yes. Yes. Fair to say. Fair to say.
Because we kind of all associated it with IBM laptops, and so IBM is Lenovo. So we're all there. Anyway, that's weird knowledge for us to have. But I also think there's older technology. I miss physical keyboards on phones. But I love the laptop.
I miss the physical keyboards on phones too.
I hold my Palm Pre 3 from time to time and go, oh, I miss you. But I love the thing. Like you said, I've got a laptop in the office that the motherboard is cracked. Half the keyboard doesn't work because the motherboard's cracked because somebody carried it by the corner. And so the idea that this one doesn't feel like that's going to happen, that's so important because we catch ourselves doing it all the time. I find myself with this thing, with my Surface Book in my hand halfway all the time walking around the office. Now I usually do it from the hinge, but still, that feeling of strength and durability, that it'll survive something that theoretically is such a simple and normal thing for us to be doing is an important thing. And it's exciting to hear that you guys gave it an editor's choice.
Someone needs to tell my 8-year-old son not to carry his laptop by the screen.
Oh.
Well, actually, the someone is me, but he doesn't listen to me. He has a laptop, which, full disclosure, is an old ThinkPad of mine that I gave him, and I guess that you can see the quality because he carries it around like this. I'm not even going to simulate this with a laptop because it's so horrifying. He'll carry it around like this, holding onto the screen with it open, and I tell him you can't do that, and he keeps doing it. I keep telling him, one day the bottom is just going to come off and he's going to be carrying a screen.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess that shows you how good the quality is. Because that ThinkPad that I gave him is from, I think, 2014. So, and I used it a lot.
As we tend to do.
Yes.
In our lives. Well, Avram, thanks for showing it off. I am I like it. It looks like a nice machine, and I'm gonna definitely check out the full review on Tom's Hardware. So, and as always, I look forward to seeing what we talk about next.